Welcome to Mindful Escape, the podcast that helps you find your purpose and your passion. My name's Leighton Dewitt, and I am your host. And today we're going to have a solo episode. So it's all about me. Every week, we listen to people's stories about how they escape the rat race, the corporate world, or whatever you want to call it. And last year, I quit my job. I'd worked in property for about 14 years, had been in different areas of London, and I realized that London was no longer serving me. Had a life coach session with a gentleman who asked me, what am I passionate about? And the scary thing was, I couldn't answer him. I didn't know. I knew I was enthusiastic about health and fitness, and I had different hobbies that I did, but nothing I really loved or was completely passionate about. So upon quitting my job and leaving London within 3 weeks, I sold as much as I could and gave the rest to charity. I jumped on the plane to Spain to figure out what I liked doing and what I didn't like doing. And I was really keen to do that on my own without distractions or influence by other people. I met with my cousin and my brother on the first two stops of my trip in Spain and Abu Dhabi to give me some ideas about where to go and what I could do. And it wasn't until I got to Vietnam about 2 months after leaving London where I met a lady who had a very good career in Ho Chi Minh City. She had decided at a young age that it wasn't the life she wanted to live and moved out to this village where she rented a small house and she rented it out as like an Airbnb type basis. She did hikes with her guests to the waterfalls, and her husband took people on motorbike tours through the mountains. And it was at that moment I realized, there's a different way of living life. You don't have to live in a big city. You don't have to grind and have lots of material things. She was one of the happiest people I could ever meet. And that was a huge penny drop for me. And it made me think, okay, so if I don't live that city life, what type of life will I lead? And obviously, as I went through my journey, I was exploring different lifestyles and cultures and ways of living and learning more about myself and spending time on my own, figuring out what I like doing, who I like spending time with. And it takes time to do this. And unfortunately, when we're in our day-to-day corporate world, it's very hard to make time to figure out what we're passionate about, but it's so important. We only get one life. And if you spend it just spending your whole time focused on a job that you don't really enjoy, you feel stuck, you become on autopilot. What kind of life is that? We'll look back in 20, 30, 40 years' time, or maybe on our deathbed and think, did I live life to the fullest? And the answer is no. So if you're in your job and you love it and that's what you want to do, then that's fantastic. And I'm so happy that people can find that. But that wasn't for me. And as you've seen or listened to with the guests on the show, they've also found that there's something in their heart that doesn't make that lifestyle feel like it's for them. So they make a leap. A few of the guests that I've had on the show talk about different tips and tricks of how to prepare yourself to move from one lifestyle to another. And for me, I think it's all about taking small steps. A few episodes we've talked about fear and overcoming fear. We've talked about obstacles, self-belief. But ultimately, for me, it's just about taking action. Think about things that you want to do and that you're afraid of. Think about things that you would love to try and just do it. Think about what's holding you back and why is it holding you back? Today, I work as a life coach and I help people from all different backgrounds. Most of them are working in the property industry, naturally, because that's my background. Some people don't think they're enjoying what they're doing. And then as I start coaching them, they realize why they got into the industry in the first place and they fall in love with it again. For others, they decide actually that's not what they want to do and they start exploring other hobbies and activities, mixing with different groups of people. So whatever it is that you're doing right now, if it's not making you happy, try to do something different, even if it's just one evening a week or a couple of hours at the weekend. There's so many opportunities, no matter what city you're in. Explore online, look for groups, look for hobbies, look for activities. It could be dancing, it could be sport, whatever tickles your fancy, but just try something different, meet new people. And very often we get caught in a trap. The people that are surrounding us can create sometimes a negative environment, and we believe that they're our family and their friends, so they want the best for us, and very often they do, but sometimes they could be holding you back. So don't be afraid to spend a little time by yourself. Go out for dinner on your own, go for a walk without any headphones in. Try things that allow you to think. So many people are scared to be alone with their thoughts because of what might come up, but what could come up? It could be great. It could be amazing. You could come up with an idea that just changes your life completely. So on my journey, I traveled to many different countries. I did Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand, and ended up in Bali doing my yoga teacher training without the intention to become a yoga teacher, just to deepen my practice and understand the philosophy of it, which led to me getting a job as a yoga teacher anyway, because I'd run out of money traveling. And it enabled me to continue living this lifestyle of being in a tropical country, eating lovely fruit, going to the beach every weekend, and doing that job and having a little bit of security with a place to sleep and some food enabled me to work about 10 hours a week and still spend the rest of the time figuring out what I was passionate about and what I wanted to do with my life. Having qualified as a life coach several years ago, it was an easy transition for me to get back into my coaching, and it was something that I loved doing at the time, but I didn't find the time to do it around my property job. So I started up that business, which was great, and started giving me an additional income to support my lifestyle here in Thailand. One day during a meditation, I had this idea of mindful escape. I'd been thinking about starting a podcast for ages, and I just didn't know what I wanted to talk about. Initially, I was thinking something and doing around masculine energy versus feminine energy and the way that men are in today's world, because I think it's a really important topic. But I found it a really difficult topic to talk about because I didn't really understand the ins and outs of it and the correct way to be. I feel like we've been raised in a society or a generation where it is very confusing for both men and women and the roles that we're supposed to take on. So it's something that I'm still very interested in and exploring more. But sometimes something just came to me about mindful escape, and I thought, do you know what? I've done this journey. I know everything there is to know about it. And perhaps there's other people out there that have done the same thing. And for anyone that's thinking about starting a podcast, my biggest worry was actually finding guests. And finding guests has been the easiest thing that I could ever think of. The hardest thing is finding time to record the episodes, doing all the editing and publishing it. But actually finding guests is amazing because so many people want to come on and talk to you and tell you their story. And I've got to a point where I'm now turning people away because there's just so many people out there. And it was like my biggest challenge at the beginning. So sometimes what you think is going to be difficult isn't the hardest part, and you don't know until you try. So if you're thinking about doing something like a podcast, or if you've got an idea that you're passionate about and you want to give a go, just try it. You've got nothing to lose. It might be a few hours here or there, but if it works, fantastic. If it doesn't, then at least you can say you've tried. One of my best friends started his own business a year ago, and one of the conversations that we had before he started was, what if it fails? And if it fails, he'll go back and get a job. But if it succeeds, it allows him to live the life that he's always wanted to lead. And he's always talked about owning his own business. And now he's doing it. And it was terrifying, I'm sure. And he's told me stories about having that doubt in his mind about whether he should do it. And we all have this fear, and it's just overcoming it. So whatever is stopping you from taking action today, just move through it, feel the fear, and do it anyway. The other thing I wanted to touch on today in the solo episode was about a paradox, which I came across recently, which is called the beta paradox. This is really important for me and something that I think has had a big impact on my life. So the beta paradox is a theory that states we're better off being in a bad situation than being in an okay situation. And the reason that is that when we're in an okay situation, whether it be an okay job that we just plod along with, an okay relationship that's not that great, but it's okay, or maybe it could be a friendship, or it could be a living situation. Like if it's okay, you kind of just plod along with it and yeah, it's fine. And we could end up getting stuck in that kind of that motion for a very long period of time. However, if the situation is bad, then we make changes. It's enough for us to stimulate a response and be like, do you know what? I can't deal with this. Like, I need to change it. And then that bad could go not to okay, but to good. So being in a bad situation, turning it to good is obviously a lot better than being stuck in that okay. And I think for me is I worked in the property industry, which I enjoyed. I loved working with people, but I didn't love it. It wasn't great. It was just okay. And because it was okay, I became accustomed to it. I was on autopilot and I just plodded through and yeah, lived an okay life. But if things had got bad, then I would have made a decision quicker. So sometimes I think the reason I'm telling you this is that if things are okay, have a think about that. Is that how you want to live your life, in this okay zone? Or do you want to live a good or a great life? Because it is out there, you just need to make the changes that need to be made in order to get there. So have a think about that. Consider the life you're living, consider the life that you want to lead, and think about if your situation was a little bit worse, would you make the change to do it? And how about just making that change anyway? One of the podcast episodes I did where the guest had had a heart attack, and I asked him, why did it take a heart attack to make you change your life? And it was because everything was okay before then. It wasn't bad, it wasn't good, it was okay. And it wasn't until something major in his life impacted him to make that change that it happened. And some of us just wait too long, wait for something bad to happen to our health, wait for something bad to happen in the relationship, wait for something bad to happen that has a negative impact on our life. And you don't need to wait. The time to act is now. So make it happen. I'll leave it there for now. Thank you so much for listening. If you found this useful and valuable, make sure you share it with a friend or post it on social media, and I'll see you again very soon.